Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm Diane Desiel, and today I'm starting with you the assembling of a line coat. We will do all the preparation. The first thing we have to do is for sure putting the fusible everywhere we indicate on the pattern, and then we will prepare the sewing by putting back together some of the piece. The first one I'm going to do is the collar, and if you looked at my video on the shirt pattern, I did use the same pattern as my shirt, so you could see that I went down 1 centimeter. The difference is that I decided to do my under collar in 2-piece cut on bias, so I do have a seam allowance in the back, but since it's on bias I reduce it about 3 millimeter on the center back parallel, so it will fall better. The other major difference is the width of the collar, almost double. Here I have 11 centimeter wide. Also my opening, so I did 2 openings just like the shirt collar, but here I did about 8 millimeters, 7 to 8 millimeter wide opening. The first piece we'll put together is the collar. Hope you can see that even my fusible was cut on bias for my under collar in 2-piece. And the first seam we're going to do is the center back. We'll sew at 1 centimeter, and then we will open and press the seam allowance open. Then I'm going to put it over my top collar and sew it all around at 1 centimeter also. When your collar is sewn, you could even see the little excess of the top fabric. It's time now to do the notch, so all the curve area has to be notched, removing little triangle like that as even as you can. Once your notch is finished, you're going to do your understitch on the under collar, so the one with the seam, including the seam allowance, and you're going to stitch at 1 millimeter from the seam. Now that the collar is completely assembled with the understitch that we could see over here, if you do have a pointy corner for your collar, you might be able to do the understitch only on the top side. Also, if your corner is round but smaller than mine, you're not going to be able to do your understitch all the way, so just do it where you could do it. We're going to attach the open side together with a stay stitch at 5 millimeter. Right after doing my stay stitch at the collar, I'm also going to assemble my facing back and front at the shoulder. Place your front and your back over, right side with right side, and just assemble your shoulder with back tack beginning at the end. Now my facing are assembled together at the shoulder, and I did press my seam open so I could put it aside. Also I did assemble or stitch together with a stay stitch my collar, and this one also I could put it away for now. For the next step, we're going to prepare the bodice, so we'll do the same thing 4 times. So as you could see, I already did part of mine, so I did bias finishing, but just the bottom part of the side seam on about 15 to 20 centimeter. You could do bias or overlock, but it's time to do it now. Also, you're going to press your hem for the back and also for the front. So you see my bias just for the bottom part, and I did press my hem, just the part that has a hem. The front part with the overlap has a seam allowance. The seam we're going to do is going to be to attach the pocket bag. So just place it on the right side of the fabric at the extension. Assemble with your normal seam allowance. Then you're going to flip the lining and do a little top stitch at 1 millimeter on the lining. Make sure you grab all the seam allowance. Now you could see that my front is complete. I did sew my pocket bag on both front and the back, same thing. Now you could put your piece aside and we're going to do the next piece, that is the sleeve. You have your two piece. You're going to do just like we did for the bodice. You're going to press both hams, so big piece and small piece. And we're ready to do the sleeve head. If you remember, we have quite a bit of ease. On my pattern, I had a 4 centimeter ease. To ease easily in a thick leftover fabric, here I have wool from another project. You're going to cut on bias, about 20 centimeter long and 3 centimeter wide. If you don't have wool, doesn't matter, you could even use a thick fleece. It's going to do the job as well. I will be using my wool for this example. You're going to sew it to the sleeve head, pulling while you're sewing. Try to do it just a tiny little bit inside your seam allowance. This is my back side. The highest one is the back side. You're going to sew pulling all the way until pretty much the same area on the front side. Same thing for this one, so you see your back level. So if you start on the front, pretty much at the same level, and just put it like that, pulling on your bias. Now when your sleeve heads are done, you're going to sew your mitered corner. This is on the big sleeve. You're going to fold it half and assemble for both sleeves with your normal seam allowance, but you have to stop at the intersection of the other seam allowance. So stop right there. Now you could see your sleeves are done and you already have a shape, but look at this one here, just sewn. And look at this one here, I just put a little bit of steam without touching the fabric, and the bias continue working. It just brings your fabric and seam allowance almost 90 degrees. When it's like that, you know your sleeve is going to fit perfectly into the armhole. Now at the bottom you did sew the corner. I want you to open and press that little part of seam allowance open. It's going to give you something like that. Now this sleeve is complete. For the preparation, we just have one little thing to do on the small piece. The side of the extension, just fold your hem, but the wrong side. And you're going to sew your corner from the bottom with a back tack until your seam allowance, so the intersection, you do that little seam on both of your little piece. Before to put these pieces away, if you remember in your pattern, on the back side, we do have a little bit of ease between the notches. I want you to do a little stay stitch from notch to notch at 5 millimeters from the edge, holding your fabric with your finger behind the foot. So it's going to do a little wrinkle that we'll use as we need. Now you could see that my little corners are sewn for the small piece, and also my little wrinkle are done for both back side of the big piece. We are going to continue with the lining piece, starting with the sleeve. So the small piece, only fold your hem. The big piece, you're going to fold the hem also. You're also going to do your wrinkle on the back side of the seam, and you're going to sew the sleeve head, but this time use a piece of bias, again 20 centimeter by 3 centimeter, using a thin fabric, so or a thin cotton or the lining itself if you have leftover. It's going to be a little harder because the lining is not as stretchy as the wool or the fleece that we use for the self. But remember that we did drop the sleeve head to eliminate some ease in the lining. It should give you pretty much your 90 degrees. The front lining piece, you only have to fold your hem, and then the last piece, your back lining, I suggest that first you fold it good side with good side and you do your middle crease, so just all the way down. Then you're going to fold and bring the first notch over the second notch to create your pleat, and then do another press, but this time to nothing at the bottom. So hold your bottom and just pull on both sides before pressing. You could also see I did a little stay stitch just to hold the pleat together, and when you're done with the pleat you could press your hem. This completes the preparation of the coat. That's it for today. I hope this video will be helpful. Thank you for watching and I see you next time.